The first time Evelyn Vance, CEO of Vance Holdings, truly saw Adam Carter was the day she almost died in the heart of Chicago. Before that, he was a blur of gray, a silent, sloping shadow that appeared in the periphery of her 60th floor. Corner office in the towering steel and glass of the Willis Tower at 5:45 a.m. sharp, just as her first espresso machine hissed to life. He was part of the architecture, like the recessed lighting or the polished mahogany desk he dusted. Her world was one of billion-dollar mergers, hostile takeovers and boardroom coups. His, she assumed without thinking, was one of mops and bleach. She didn't know his name. He was simply the morning janitor, a silent fixture in the pre-dawn quiet where she built her empire, and he cleaned its glass. The disconnect was absolute, a chasm wider than the Lake Michigan expanse beneath her windows. That all ended on a bitter Tuesday in January. Evelyn had pushed herself for 72 hours, straight to finalize the Aquilon acquisition, a deal that would cement her legacy. Sleep was a currency she'd spent liberally, and her body was demanding repayment. As she stood, marshalling her arguments for a final conference call, the glittering Chicago skyline did a slow, sickening tilt, a deafening roar, not from the magnificent mile below, but from inside her own skull, swallowed all sound. The sharp edge of her desk rushed towards her temple. She never felt the impact. A strong, calloused arm, smelling faintly of lemony disinfectant and starch, caught her around the shoulders, arresting her fall with a gentle firmness. The grey blur solidified. She was cradled against a rough grey uniform shirt. Her vision swam back into focus, meeting a pair of calm, deep blue eyes filled not with panic, but with quiet concern. "Easy, ma'am," a low, steady voice said. "Just breathe. You're all right." It was him, Adam Carter. He had moved with an impossible speed, materializing from across the room. He guided her, his grip respectful but unyielding, into her leather chair. Before she could summon words, a clean, damp cloth, cool and soothing, was pressed into her hand. A paper cup of water from the dispenser he'd just filled appeared on the desk. "Low blood sugar, maybe. Or exhaustion," he stated simply, not as a subordinate guessing, but as someone stating a familiar fact. "The water will help. Should I call your assistant?" Evelyn Vance, the vulture of venture capital, who commanded rooms with a whisper, could only stare, sipping the water. Her pride drowned in a wave of vertigo and profound, disorienting vulnerability. He had seen her not as a titan, but as a human on the brink of collapse. "No," she finally managed, her voice thin. "Thank you, Adam, ma'am." Adam Carter. He gave a small, polite nod and returned to his work, polishing the already spotless conference table, giving her the dignity of space. That should have been the end of it, a footnote, but Evelyn found her eyes tracking him in the following days. She noticed the precise, efficient way he worked, the lack of any wasted movement. She saw the well-worn but meticulously clean work boots and the small silver cross on a chain that sometimes slipped out from under his uniform. She began arriving earlier, not just to work, but to exist in the same quiet space as this man who had held her up, without a second thought. One morning she broke the silence. "Mr. Carter." He paused, turning. "Yes, Miss Vance?" "That day, you were very quick, very calm." He wiped his hands on a cloth. "8 years as an army medic, ma'am. In Kandahar. You learn to recognize when someone's about to hit the deck." The revelation was a shock. This quiet man polishing her trash. Ben had seen more real crisis in a week than she had in her entire career. The chasm between them suddenly felt artificial, a construct of fabric and job titles. She started asking small questions. He gave short, polite answers. She learned he was a single father to a 7-year-old daughter, Chloe, who had asthma, that he worked this shift specifically so he could take her to school and be home when she returned. That his life was a meticulously balanced clockwork of bus schedules, school runs and inhaler checks, all run on a janitor's wage. His entire existence was an act of quiet, relentless defense for one little girl. Evelyn's world, meanwhile, was crumbling. The Aquilon deal had attracted a predator, a rival conglomerate led by the ruthlessly ambitious Robert Thorne. was launching a smear campaign, digging for any weakness. Her board grew nervous. Her lawyers, led by the impeccably expensive but spineless Martin Ford, advised capitulation. "It's just business, Evelyn," Ford drawled in her office one evening, as Adam silently cleaned the outer area. "A strategic retreat. Thorne plays dirty. He's hinting he has personal leverage." Evelyn felt the walls closing in. Her empire, built on sheer will, felt like a house of cards in a Chicago windstorm. The final blow came late on a Thursday. Martin Ford called, his voice devoid of its usual slick confidence. "Evelyn, Thorne's filed a devastating personal lawsuit. He's alleging financial malfeasance from your early days, fabricating evidence. It's going to be a media circus. The board is panicking. I have to advise you that my firm, considering our other clients with ties to Thorne, we can't represent you in this. I'm sorry." The phone slipped from her hand, abandoned by her own lawyer. The lawsuit would drain her financially, destroy her reputation. She was alone, staring into the abyss. She didn't know how long she sat in the darkening office, the city lights blinking on like indifferent stars. The soft swish of a microfiber cloth broke her stupor. Adam was there, emptying her wastebasket. He saw her face, pale and frozen in the gloom. He didn't speak. He simply finished his task and turned to leave. "He's gone," she whispered, the sound hollow in the vast room. "My lawyer, Thorne, he's fabricated a lawsuit. They've all left." Adam stopped. He put down his bin. He looked not at the powerful CEO, but at the woman drowning in front of him. He thought of the bullies who tried to corner Chloe at the park, and the fire that had flared in his chest. He thought of his oath, not just to the army, but to something deeper. He walked over and stood before her desk, not as an employee, but as a man. What did he allege? The lawsuit. His voice was different, not the soft janitor, but the assessing medic. Surprised, she stammered out the basics, obscure. Financial transfers from 15 years ago. A startup that had failed. Adam listened, his brow furrowed. "You have the original bank records? The partnership agreement? Somewhere in archival storage, maybe. But it's a mountain of paper. It would take days to find, and the hearing is in 72 hours. "Give me access," he said, the words simple and solid. "I'll find it." Evelyn looked at him, stunned. "Adam, this isn't cleaning a spill. This is legal warfare. You have Chloe to think about." "That's exactly why I'm doing it," he said, his blue eyes steady. "She needs to see that when someone is falling, you don't watch. You catch them. Now where is the storage?" For the next 2 nights, while Evelyn fought panic and prepared statements, Adam Carter worked a second shift. In the dusty, fluorescent-lit sub-basement archive, surrounded by cardboard boxes smelling of old paper and time, he searched. He moved with a soldier's discipline, creating orderly stacks. He found it on the second night, a faded blue folder containing the original, signed partnership agreement and the bank statements, clearly showing the transactions were legitimate investments, not malfeasance. He didn't just find it. He organized it, tabbed it, and created a chronological narrative a child could understand. He brought it to her at dawn. "Your proof, ma'am." The day of the preliminary hearing arrived. The courtroom was a pit of sharks. Robert Thorne smirked from his seat. The judge looked impatient. Martin Ford was conspicuously absent. Evelyn, in a sharp black suit, felt utterly alone, clutching the folder Adam had given her. As Thorne's lawyer began painting her as a fraud, her confidence wavered. The legal jargon was a weapon she wasn't trained to wield. Then from the very back of the public gallery, a figure in a simple, clean button-down shirt and khakis stood up. Adam Carter walked down the center aisle, past the gawking spectators, and stopped at the wooden gate separating the court. He looked at Evelyn, then at the judge. "Your Honor," his voice clear and firm echoed in the stunned silence. "May I approach? I have relevant documentation for the defendant." He was not a lawyer, but he carried an authority that was unshakable, the authority of truth, neatly organized in a faded blue folder. The judge, intrigued, waved him forward. For the next 20 minutes, under the judge's questioning, Adam guided the court through the documents. He explained the dates, the signatures, the bank codes with the calm clarity of a medic briefing his squad. He reduced Thorne's complex fabrication to simple, exposed lies. The smirk vanished from Thorne's face. The hearing was adjourned, the lawsuit crumbling before it even began. Outside the courthouse, on the steps overlooking the Chicago River, Evelyn faced him. The wind whipped her hair. The billionaire and the janitor. "You," she began, emotion choking her voice. "You were my last line of defense. And you didn't abandon your post." Adam simply nodded. "You were in the line of fire, ma'am. No one gets left behind." He glanced at his watch, a simple plastic digital one. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to pick up Chloe from school. Her inhaler's in my bag." He began to walk away. "Adam, wait," she called. He turned. How do I repay you? A bonus, a promotion, a new job?" Adam Carter smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. "A recommendation letter would be fine, ma'am. Chloe's school has a career day next month. She wants me to talk about being a custodian. She says I'm the best keeper of clean spaces she knows." He paused. "And maybe just be kind to the next person who's about to fall, even if they're not a CEO." He walked down the steps, blending into the flow of the city, a quiet guardian returning to his most important duty. Evelyn Vance stood there, the weight of her empire suddenly feeling different. It wasn't just steel and stock anymore. It was also built on the quiet courage of an army medic with a mop, a single dad who defended his post, who saw a human being where others saw only a title, and who, with a simple folder and unwavering decency, had indeed told her without ever saying the words aloud, "You're safe now, ma'am." If this story of quiet courage and unexpected kindness moved you, if you believe that heroes often wear the simplest uniforms, then do something kind today. Share this story. Let it remind someone that decency is the greatest defense. And if you want more true tales of humanity that shine in the dark, subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Your support helps us find and share these lights. Like, share, and subscribe, because every act of kindness has a story.